Welcome, everyone, to the National Real Estate Post. It is I, Frank Ray, here with our friend Barry Habib. And before we get started, I do want to point out, guys, we are letting you guys know that the Chenoa Fund down payment assistance program is back, and it's pretty cool. They've got a few different options, and one of those is one where a lot of the DPA stuff, Barry, you're stuck with the median income restriction. Like you can only make so much, either 80% or 115% of median. They do have an option where you don't have to worry about that particular calculation. So it opens up the 100% DPA to a lot more people. So if you want to learn more, just click the banner you see right here on your screen. It's over on your right as well, or just down below, or on Facebook around here somewhere. So with that, let's get right to it. So Barry, you're saying there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
There's a lot of stuff to talk about. Yeah.
Let's have at it. Let's fill everybody in.
You want to talk about the housing data for last week, what we got this week, the Fed this week, the jobs numbers, what you choose, you select.
Okay, let's go in this order. First of all, with respect to potential impact on interest rates, what numbers are coming out? And then let's bring up the rear of the conversation with the housing data from last week and what may be reported this week.
All right, so here we go. So this week we got a lot of action happening. So when we get to Wednesday, the Fed's going to cut rates. So before that, what your job is to do is use social media, get out there, spread the word, because while the Fed may be cutting rates, it does not mean mortgage rates will decline. Let's face it. Mortgage rates are a long-term instrument. The Fed only controls shorter-term instruments. We know that the two aren't always exactly aligned. And the longer-term side of things, like mortgages, like the 10-year, very concerned about inflation. What the Fed's trying to do by cutting interest rates is spur more economic activity, which may actually increase inflation. Longer-term rates may not like that. So there is a possibility, very real one, that the Fed would cut rates and you could see interest rates get a little bit worse. Prep your customers in advance for that. Don't have them wait for the Fed rate cut. And then don't be caught blindly when the media mistakenly says, oh, the Fed cut rates. I saw it last time, NBC put out a big thing showing Fed cut by 1/4. And here's what a 1/4% reduction in your mortgage payment would be.
Gosh, you've got to be kidding me.
No, I mean, it's just crazy. So remember, since the last time the Fed cut rates, well, I don't have to tell you. You know what interest rates have done since then. So I'm not saying that we see as big of a move higher in rates. However, it could happen if it's perceived to be inflationary.
Got it.
Interestingly enough, the very next day, we get the Fed's favorite measure of inflation called PCE, personal consumption expenditure.
Okay.
Now, what happens is they look at the last 12 months. So if you want a clue as to how this is going to go, you look at what the oldest number was from 12 months ago, which will be replaced by the newest number. So out goes the old, in comes the new. So if this number is a little higher than the one from 12 months ago, which was very low, just 0.1% on the overall, 0.2 on the core, if it comes in a little hotter than that, the year-over-year inflation number goes up and everybody starts to panic. So that's when you'll see interest rates go higher, because the mortgage rates hate inflation.
Right.
And then, of course, on Friday, we get the big jobs number. I want you to watch things like weekly earnings. Everybody looks at hourly earnings. Don't look at hourly earnings, because you can be working and getting paid more per hour. But what if you work less hours? It's important what you get hourly, but it's more importantly how much money you get in your hand.
Right.
So it's weekly earnings. So that's why we look at weekly. Everybody else, let them look at the wrong thing.
Got it.
So if that starts to go up, that will be deemed inflationary. Also watch the unemployment rate. It's at 3.5% right now. You want a really good recession indicator. The best one is when the unemployment rate hits its lowest level and then starts to tick higher. So I don't mean 3.6, 3.7. If the unemployment rate over the next few months starts to move up towards 4%, there's a recession going to be happening within 6 months. You're going to start to see the stock market take a hit on that. So please be defensive and protect yourself. But also, if we do reach a level of recession, which I think 2020 is a likely time period, you'll get a big drop in interest rates, which will give you some big opportunity.
Good to know.
There's another indicator called the Cass Freight Index. So Frank, when you ordered that package from Amazon and it got delivered to your home, it had to be shipped.
Right.
So what Cass Freight measures is how much shipping activity is going on. So when we take a look at how much shipping activity via the Cass Freight Index, it has dropped to its lowest level in a couple of years.
Interesting.
So this is interesting, but it's also a bit concerning because we know that manufacturing is having a tough time. It's spilling over into services. And now when you start to see shipments decline, this is a big indicator. Cass Freight says, their opinion, that these numbers are so troubling that they think the fourth quarter of 2019 could be a negative number for GDP, which, as you know, the textbook definition for recession is 2 consecutive quarters of GDP reaching a negative number, which would mean that, according to Cass Freight, they would not be surprised if we're currently entering into a recession in the very early stages of it right now. So I don't know. I'm not saying that, but I do think that the economy is at a vulnerable state. Now, we've seen interest rates rise, Frank. I told you there's a lot to talk about. What's some of the reasons for this? Mario Draghi, you know, I'm going to have more QE. And I love his statement. Believe me, it'll be enough. You know, so believe me, it'll be. Who talks like this? So anyway, he's the head of the European Central Bank.
Okay.
Until a couple of days from now. Then he leaves, and he was very aggressive. He's going to be replaced by Christine Lagarde. She's already said much less aggressive, because these negative interest rates they have in Europe, it really hurts the banking system. Because in a negative environment, banks can't have spread to make money. So you've seen these European yields start to rise, and that's one of the reasons why our yields have risen. So we have to keep an eye on Christine Lagarde, because if interest rates start to continuously go up in Europe, we will be in a position where our rates might rise. Another quick thing to mention, because there's so much.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. We started this little QE, quantitative easing. What do you mean quantitative easing? Yes. Shh. Don't tell anybody. But it's not a big number, Frank. It's only $65 billion a month. Not that much money. No, Billy, you know, before you know it, $1 billion here, $1 billion there, you start talking about real money. So $65 billion a month that they're buying bills. Now, what's a bill? A maturity of less than a year, okay? 1 year or less. So 1 year treasury bills. Why do they want to do this? Because we've had an inverted yield curve. So what do they do to combat the inverted yield curve? The inverted yield curve gets combated by steepening it, by taking those shorter term yields and making them lower, by doing QE, by cutting the Fed funds rate. So that gets the yield curve to where there's an actual spread. Does that mean we won't have a recession? Well, look, if you have heaven forbid, if somebody has a health issue, let's just say it's a cold, and you take a cold capsule to make you dry up your sinuses, you still have the cold. You're just not showing the symptoms, okay? So you're treating the symptom, not the problem here. So please remember that. But there's also another reason why. Because liquidity, you might have heard that the banking system had some issues recently where, because people had to pay third quarter taxes, people were pulling money out of the bank. So let me just explain real fast how our banking system works. You go to the bank and you put $1,000 in the bank. The bank doesn't hold your $1,000. They want to make money. It's a liability. So what do? They keep $100 and they go ahead and they invest the other 900 at a higher spread than they have to pay you. And that's how they make a living. Great. The thing of it is, what if everybody wanted their money out? The bank couldn't pay it because they don't have the money. Think the movie It's a Wonderful Life, where he said, well, I can't give you your money, George, because your money's in Tom's house. Your money's in Bill's house, right? That's the way he explained it. And he's right. That's the way it works. That's why everybody can't pull their money out at the same time. But a lot of people wanted to pull their money out and banks didn't have it. Now, there's only 20 banks in the United States that could actually borrow from the Fed. The rest have to borrow from each other. And because there was such a tight squeeze, those rates jacked up to like 9%. The Fed, in an effort to do this, is now injecting more liquidity into the system by doing these bills. So what does this tell you? Why would nobody have any money that's accessible? Why would everybody need money? Why? Does that show you signs of a really good economy? Just think about those things. Okay. Sorry. So jobs number Friday, it's going to be really, really important, as I mentioned. So that's where rates are going. But what about real estate? Real estate's really good, man, although the media screws us on their delivery of it, because the media is really selfish and the media just wants you to tune in because you're afraid. If the media says, oh, everything's great, this and that, less people. So for selfish reasons, the media puts out this crap that makes you want to tune in because you're like, oh my God, what's happening here? So give you a key example. Now, this week, we're going to get some really important data. Case Schiller on Tuesday will give us the rates of appreciation around the United States, which should be pretty decent, around 3%. But also, we're going to get the pending home sales, signed contracts on existing homes. This is an important number because it kind of gives you a finger on the pulse. Where's the market? I anticipate it's coming pretty good, even though interest rates have risen, simply because we have an issue in this country where there is more demand than there is supply. Last week, I got to tell you what happened here. First of all, FHFA measures appreciation on homes with a conforming loan amount. So these are homes probably, you know, $500,000 or less. Okay.
Right.
You can have a $2 million home with a conforming loan. I get it. But
Sure.
by and large, okay, that end of the market's pretty hot. If you want to know how the housing market is, go to your median home price in your market, and anywhere a little bit above median home price, down, on fire. Good luck trying to find a home. It's great.
Right.
The further up you go from median home price, the slower the market is. So it's not how is the housing market doing. You tell me where you are relative to your median home price. I'll tell you how the housing market's doing. Okay. But that's the way you have to view it today. So news came out last week on existing home sales. This is a very important report. Very important because this represents 90% of the housing market. Median home price rose 5.9%.
Interesting.
First time home buyer kicked up to its highest level in a long time at 33%. All really, really good signs. That the media poo-pooed it, okay? They did not like it. Of course they do. But then when new home sales came out, so this is on the new construction side, Diana Olick went on, I put this in my update right at the beginning, because she just flat out didn't tell the truth, okay? So she said, oh, it was a huge miss. Came in at 701,000. The expectation was for 698. Last time I checked, 701's higher than 698. How do you miss? And then she said, well, there was a huge revision from last month. Huge revision. It went from 713,000 annualized units to 706. That's 0.9%. That's not a huge miss. That's a rounding error. Okay.
Yeah.
So now when you have this type of crap that comes out of the mouths of the media, people hear this. Oh my gosh, housing, huge miss. Problems in the housing market. Maybe I shouldn't buy. Maybe there's another bubble coming. No. On the existing home sales number, it was down 2%. Existing home sales. Why? Because there wasn't enough inventory. Look, if a store is selling so much that they run out of stock, that they aren't making sales, they're not making sales because the market's bad, because people don't want to buy. They're not making sales because they don't have enough product.
They don't have the stuff.
And that's pretty much what's going on in the housing market right now. Okay. If you go to a shoe store and you want a pair of shoes, but the shoes that are available just aren't in your size, you have to wait to make your purchase.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what's happening. This is a good housing market team. Don't let people tell you any different. Tell your customers, tell your real estate agents, help them to defend themselves, and don't let people miss this opportunity. Let's not forget this. Let's be really clear on one thing. Diana Olick and her cohorts in the media have been saying that the housing market is garbage for the last 8 years. Okay? 8 years. There has not been one positive thing that's come out of their mouths for 8 years. What has happened to the housing market in the last?
It's been pretty darn good.
What if somebody listened to them? How much money has they lost?
Yeah, pathetic. What should I say here? A cannon shot load of information today, but we needed it because there's a lot going on this week. And I know a lot of originators out there in real estate agents are very curious as to what's heading our way. So I think you did a fantastic job of just kind of laying that all out for us.
Thanks, buddy. Listen, I know rates have gone up. I want you to watch like 178, 180 on the 10-year Treasury. I'm a little worrisome that we kind of drift a little higher towards 2% in the short term because of some of the things we talked about. But the inflation and jobs numbers will have a lot to do with this. Okay, so this week's going to be really pivotal. Don't panic. I think that rates will eventually cycle down, but we have to be patient. We have to have a little bit of a longer term view. Use things like, look, you have to take what the defense gives you, right, in football, right? Yeah. That's one of the best coaches in the world. Take what the defense gives you. What is the defense giving you right now? What is the market giving you right now? If you're in the mortgage business, virtually everyone who has a loan, has a home, I should say, pardon me, has equity. Frank, I'm going to tell you this number that is going to be a shocker to everybody listening. The Federal Reserve a week ago released what is the average LTV in the United States today. I know nobody will get this. Okay?
What was it, like 50?
How about this? 36.
Golly.
You know what this tells you? The average person of their home value, 64% is equity.
Nice.
36% is loan. So if you did a cash out refi for them, you could take out 39%. This is the average. 39% of their home's value could be taken out as cash out. If you use it properly, like we've talked about in the past, to restructure debt, you can positively change your clients' lives. It doesn't matter what rate they have. It doesn't matter what rate you have, because the benefits are so good. I can show you somebody with a 3.5 rate going to 5. You can put their kids through college, fund their retirement, save them 150 payments, shorten their mortgage by 12 plus years. You can change people's lives if you start acting like a debt manager and stop being a salesperson.
I Love it. And to learn more, of course, let's kill that real fast. And to learn more, of course, and to stay in tune with what's going to happen this week, you're going to have to stick with Barry, who's always got his finger on the pulse of everything and who will let you know exactly what's going on, when it's going on in real time. Just join MBS Highway. You can do that. There is a little banner right down below, and you can click on that and start with these guys for a couple of weeks for free. Right, Barry? You guys can start for a couple of weeks for free. And stay tuned to what exactly is going on, Barry's daily updates. And there's a whole lot more in there, guys. It's just phenomenal, phenomenal product. So with that, I'm going to say leave us your comments down below, forward and share. And Barry, thanks so much for all the information. It was a lot, but it was important. We appreciate it.
You're the best, man. You are the best. And thank you for those listening. Appreciate you all.
All right. We'll catch you guys later. See ya. All right, bro. Thank you, man.